beauties, welcome back, or welcome if it's your first time. I am always happy to have you. I want to talk about some eyeshadow today. So this is a video that I have seen like all over, and to be honest with you, I will do a little bit more research before I post this, because at this moment in time I have no idea who is the originator of this video. If I can find that out, I will definitely link their video down below, but I love this idea. I'm gonna give you a little sneak peek. I'm doing the if I could only keep 10 eyeshadow palettes video. I know that hopefully there would never be a situation where this would come to fruition, but sometimes these hypotheticals are just fun to think about and to talk about. So, you know, let's just say that if there were some disaster, knock on wood, and I only had time to like put 10 palettes in my arms, what would I pick? Obviously after I had already, you know, saved my children and my husband and my dog and, you know, priorities. What eyeshadow would I pick? So let's get into it. This is in no particular order. These are not ranked. I hate ranking stuff, but so let's get into it. The first palette on my stack here is the It's Freaking Bats palette. This is the collab between Beaut Bean, who now goes by Batty Bean, by the way, Betty Jean, and Shroud. So this is the color story in case you haven't seen it. The reason that I picked this is, admittedly, I have only used this maybe twice since I got it, but this fills such a like unique hole in my collection. Like, I really don't have any other shades like this. The only shades that I might have elsewhere are, I could probably find like a maroon like this, or a, you know, a shimmery lime green, but a lot of these other shades are just so different and special, and I really do enjoy the formula of this palette. Like, when I used it, I didn't have any issues with it. It could very easily be a spring palette with these type of colors here. It could be like a fall grungy palette. It really just is versatile in my humble opinion. And there's some of the shimmers there. They're just so pretty, and like I said, just unique. So this is a palette that I think I would miss if I didn't have, which is kind of like the idea here, you know. What are a lot of these are some of my favorite palettes and things that I would miss if they were no longer in my collection. So this next one, having said that, should come as zero surprise to you if you've been watching my channel. The Flower Beauty Jungle Lights palette. Now, I'm not gonna lie, I actually was really tempted to put in the new palette I just got, the Desert Lights too, but I decided not to because I really have only used that like 3 times. But if you haven't seen this, this is her. Oh my god, I don't know how much more I can say about this palette that I just haven't already said like 10 times over. I mean, this palette it's affordable. It's like, it's either 19 or 20 bucks. They actually had a sale on their website a month or so ago where it was on sale for $9. $9 for this. First of all, the pans are huge, and this gives me like all the colors I would want. I mean, green and purple are my favorite kind of like, you know, fun colors to wear on my eye if I'm not doing a neutral eye. And these shades are just so foiled and like creamy, but still blendable. They're, honestly, as much as I love this whole palette, the reason that I chose this is for this color right here. This color is called Wild, and it's probably one of my favorite like single eyeshadows that I have ever used. I'm gonna try to give you a better look here. I don't know, the camera is just probably not even gonna do it justice, you guys, but it is such a gorgeous, like purpley, pink, like silver. It just is perfection, and I have to have that palette. I have to. Next is another palette that I'm not gonna spend a ton of time talking about, just because I feel like I have talked about it at length, even in just the short amount of time that I have had it. But I'm gonna blind you here. This is my the Patrick Ta palette. What is the actual name of this palette? Major Dimension. I knew that. So this is her. We love her here. Okay, so you have your two cream shadows, all the other shadows here. Again, what can I say that hasn't been said? Everything in here is so easy to use. Like, this is so beginner friendly. Even the cream eyeshadows, like if that intimidates you, don't let it. Like, these are just so easy to work with. Everything works well with everything else. Everything looks good with everything else. I mean, this is just like a perfect neutral palette to me. And even with there only being 4 shimmer shades, there just is so much that you can do. There just is so much you can do. I am so glad I have this palette. Okay, next is my Pat McGrath. Which one is this? Mothership, what? Which one is this? Mothership 5. This is the Bronzed Seduction, in case you have never seen this one. Okay, so I knew that I would want to keep either one or a couple of my Pat McGrath palettes. This was kind of a difficult decision to make, but this palette is stunning, you guys. It really like gives me what I need in the realm of mattes. Like, these 3 mattes I can do a lot with, and truly, like, this little special quad here, like these 4 shades, is what this palette is all about. That is, these 4 shades are really the reason to get this palette. Hello. You guys, I really hope that I have been in focus for this video. Anyway, these 4 shades right here, let me swatch them out for you. They are just some of the most beautiful shimmers that I own, that I've ever owned, and I would be very sad if I did not have them in my collection. This palette, so look, I am not the type of person that gets like emotionally attached to makeup. I don't really form those kind of connections with my makeup, except for maybe the exception of this palette. I feel like this palette will always hold a special place in my heart, and it's the ABH Norvina palette. This is actually the second one of these that I've owned. I know I've told this story before, but just in case you're new, I bought this palette when it first came out, however long ago that was, however many years that was, and I almost panned this entire palette in its entirety. I think there were maybe like three or 4 shades that I didn't pan, but I adore this palette. So I bought another one because I didn't know if this would like be discontinued, and I just loved it so much. So this is the second one that I've owned, and I still have gotten a very good amount of use out of this one. But I like this whole entire top row of shimmers is just like, A1, top tier. They're all gorgeous. Like this rose gold, this is probably another one of my absolute favorite eyeshadows that I've ever used. And you know that I am a sucker for rose gold, like I've said before. That was a really stupid place to swatch that. Hang on. Okay, so there is that rose gold. Like, look at how gorgeous that is. I think that was the first shadow that I panned in that palette. This is the palette that I wore on my wedding day. Like, it just, like I said, it just has a special place in my heart, and I really do think that the ABH formula is good. I don't think it's like the best, but I have never had any issues working with this palette. Okay, the next one kind of surprised me, but as I was looking through my collection and I saw this, I immediately was like, yes, I would be sad if I didn't have that palette. And here it is, the KVD Edge of Reality palette. This is a palette that I didn't even expect to buy, quite frankly. Like, when I saw it released, I don't know, it didn't really excite me. I got this on a crazy deal. I think this was like 20 something dollars when I got it, which I believe is like half price. Now, okay, as we look at this, the mattes, there's not really like a ton of depth in the mattes. This one here is deep enough for me, does what it needs to do. I can get some depth out of that, but the shimmers in this palette are really, like, again, really what it's about. So I honestly can't believe more people don't talk about this palette or like didn't get this palette, because all of these shades are just really, really beautiful, and they have a lot of like dimension to them too. So especially this gold. So this is them here, these four. Like, that gold has such a different like flip to it. This shade, I'm gonna swatch that one again. This shade is gorgeous. It almost has like a brown base, but it's like silvery purple. Like, I don't know how to describe it, but it's lovely. And I mean, again, I think that I like this palette because it's so beautiful, but then in addition to getting it for like half price, I feel like it makes me like it even more. But I have had a lot of fun using this. I have created some really, really pretty looks with this. Everything works well, the mattes blend well, the shimmers are beautiful. So I actually don't know if you can get this palette anymore, but I recommend. All right, getting down to the last few here. This next palette, I don't know if it will come as a surprise to you, but my Sigma Quarter Rosa. This is a palette that I really picked kind of just for the tones. Like, I don't think too many other of the palettes that I chose have tones like this, and I just love them. Like these beautiful rosy burgundy shades. I just love this palette. You know that this palette made like my top palettes of 2020 video. Everything in here just works, again, so beautifully together. Like, no matter what you pair together, you get a beautiful look. And there's so many, like, there's different textures in here, different textures of the shimmers. There's this really beautiful rose gold again called Campfire, a beautiful like textured gold. It's just like, this is just stunning. And like these corals and pinks, again, like the Sigma, I have a few Sigma palettes and I really do think that like this is one of their better formulas. I got the Enchanted palette and I just so far have not been as impressed with the quality in that palette as I was with this. Like, this is a stunner, and I don't know if you can get this. I think you can. I think this is still available, and Sigma is always running sales. So wait for a sale, and if you like tones like this, I highly recommend this palette. Next is my Sydney Grace and Mel Thompson Tiny Marvels palette. This is what she looks like. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. This palette makes so many of like my palette videos and my ranking videos. It's just gorgeous. Like, this is my first experience with the Sydney Grace formula, and it is so easy to use. I love this color story. Like, I think it just is the perfect combination of like spring tones and fall tones. This Scarab shade is so unique and so beautiful. Like, this Fire Butts shade is gorgeous. Just, I think this is so well done. And honestly, I hear some people talk about how they feel like it's difficult to create a look with this. I've never had an issue. I mean, these, I can see why maybe the pastel shades could throw you off a little bit, but I really, someone is doing their yard work right now. Sorry about that. This is those two shades swatched, the Scarab and Fire Butts, but so beautiful. Anyway, I was just saying, like, I can understand why some people would have issues, or like, you know, your mind can't like wrap itself around the pastels, but I just like, unless I'm specifically reaching for a pastel shade, they don't bother me. I've actually worn them both like on my lower lash line. They're quite pigmented for being pastels, but this is beautiful. Again, I don't know if this has been restocked, if they're going to restock it. I actually think it's been restocked a couple of times since its release, but absolutely beautiful and absolutely worth the money, and absolutely one of my favorite palettes that I have ever used. All right, down to the last two. So my Smoky Glow and Midas Cosmetics palette. This, I wouldn't have expected to be in this, but again, as I was going through my collection, looking at everything, I had to include this. Like, I had to. I have had so much fun using these palettes. Like, these bright pinks are not typically shades that I reach for, but they work so well in this palette, and I have created some really gorgeous looks, like with the neutrals in this palette. These shimmers, I know I've talked about these before, but I'm gonna swatch these for you. So Leno and Nutty are two of like my favorite shimmers that I've ever used. So there's Leno, it's more purple, and then Nutty is right below it. It's got like this really pretty flip to it. I don't know how well it's picking up, but this Dofa shade is gorgeous all over the lid. That's it right there. Again, like just a really pretty, almost like dark duochrome shadow. I just love this palette. Love it. And I don't really wear pink eyeshadows a lot, but the pinks, something about like the undertones in these pinks just work. Like, they don't make me look sickly or like washed out like sometimes pinks can do on me. I just like, I think this palette is close to perfect. And lastly, okay, so the other Pat McGrath palette that I had to pick is her holiday palette, the Celestial Divinity. I just had to, you guys. Like, this palette was so exciting. It was so exciting to me when it came out. Now, I know that there are truly only 6 shades in here that are new, like the other 12 are from previous releases, but I didn't have those 2 palettes, so everything in here was new to me. But it's just so gorgeous. And I know there's only 3 mattes, but I don't need more than that. I really don't. Like, there is enough variety in just these 3 mattes for me to have a crease and a couple different shades to deepen things up if that's what I want to do. And then truly, like, the shimmers are just the absolute stars of the show. Like, again, every single time that I use this palette, I'm just like impressed all over again at how beautiful it is, how versatile it is. I just love it. And the price point on this was great too. This was less than $100, which I know is still a ton of money, but for the number of shadows that you get in there and for it being Pat McGrath, like, that was, I hope she does something like that for holiday again this year. That was just, that was so fun. That was such a fun palette. I really enjoy reaching for it and using it. But that's it. That rounds out my 10 palettes that I would keep if I could only keep 10 for the rest of my life. And I think I would be pretty satisfied. I think I have enough neutrals, enough color, enough different textures to keep me satisfied. But luckily, this is all hypothetical, and I can just drown in my 55 palettes here in my room. But I hope you guys enjoyed watching. As always, if you've made it this far, give me a like, subscribe. It really means so much to me. I am 1 subscriber away from 150, and I know that's not a lot, but it means a lot to me. So I would love to have you stick around, see you in my next video. But as always, until that time, take care of yourselves and take care of each other, beauties.